It is time for another Launching Life's Journeys podcast powered by Heartland RV. I am your host, Will Miller, and today we've got a special guest. That's plural, that's right. Beth and Court. We are honored to have you guys and catch up with you as you are back in the town that you grew up in. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Beth and Court from lifewithbethandcourt.com. Thank you for taking a moment before the rockets red glare and the sparklers are out and the party begins to be a guest on the Launching Life's Journeys podcast this 4th of July weekend.
We are so excited to be here.
Awesome. So I made a joke to you when we were offline. So for everybody listening, Beth and Court, they've been living life together on the road for 3 years full time. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think we're about 3 years.
Yep.
You've been coast to coast, north, south, east, west. I've made the joke. You wrestled alligators. You jumped out of planes. We'll get into some of your guys' adventures. But here you are back in the town that you guys grew up in, Traverse City, Michigan. So for everybody listening, let's be positive. If you didn't grow up there for 20 or 30 years, it is a beautiful destination in the Mitten State, right?
Totally. We actually, I would say growing up, yes, we did grow up here because we were here in our 20s. Okay. So we both lived here for about 6 to 9 years, I would say, before we decided to try the nomad lifestyle. So we owned a house about 2 miles from where we currently are.
This fun fact, this was actually our first campground we ever camped at. So when we jumped into this lifestyle, we had no clue what we were doing. We literally just woke up one morning and we were like, hey, what if instead of spending all of our vacation time traveling somewhere and using it for like 3 or 4 days out of the year, like what if we just work from the road and go see people we love and care about? And literally we just went to YouTube and started researching, but we had actually never spent a night in a camper before or hauled a camper.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when we made this decision, it was April 19th, 2020. So for a lot of reasons, everyone thought we were crazy.
Yeah.
But we had a goal. Her dad was getting married in Virginia. My best friend had a virtual event in Nashville, Tennessee 2 weeks later. And we were kind of talking through the logistics of what that would look like. And Court just was like, what if we go and just don't come back though? And I was like, ooh, intriguing. And so we sat down and we worked out the budget. We looked at all of the logistics of what it would take. And literally that day called our realtor and we're like, hey, I know we bought this house 1.5 years ago, but we're going to have to sell it. You cool with that? And so he came over the next day, told us what needed to be fixed up. We bought a truck and a trailer. We sold our cars. We sold our house. We sold most of our possessions, anything that wouldn't fit in the trailer.
And then we came here to this campground just in case before everything was final to make sure we could do it. And this campground specifically holds a special spot in our heart because of that. But also this is where we got married 2 years ago. So we love being back here. We love being up north in the summer. It's absolutely gorgeous. And it just holds a special place in our heart.
And, you know, honestly, too, and that's wonderful. Congratulations to you both.
Thanks.
You know, for so many people that ditch the sticks and bricks, there is that, how do we do this thing? And you guys have proven for our listeners or our viewers that are watching this as it's streamed on YouTube, you're both smiling. You're both happy.
Yeah.
You're still like, it isn't doomsday for everybody. Now, I'm not saying it's successful for everybody. There are some ups and there are some downs. And I always tell people I'm not biased to Heartland. Whatever you have, right? The industry knows, customers know, dealers know. The internet has exposed that when you've got 98% of all the RV manufacturers in Elkhart, Indiana, everybody knows we're using the same supplied parts. So outside of some unique floor plans, some interior decor selections that we make, you're going to have a great experience regardless of what brand you choose. So, but when it comes down to that experience, it is about working together, learning as you go. And here we are. So 3 years of travels. What would you say for everybody listening? Good, bad, scary, unbelievable.
Oh man.
Let's just talk learning. Is it, you know, a lot of people that I've spoken to, they say, you know, well, honestly, yeah, you're going to have some extra shakes and wiggles. Everybody always seems to be going back to, though, becoming meteorologists and planning. So for you guys, 3 years of traveling together all over the country, what would you say is probably the common theme or the best learned thing that you guys have experienced on this adventure so far?
Well, I will start this by saying, as Court mentioned, we had never even spent a weekend in RV. So we knew absolutely nothing. We didn't have the equipment. We didn't have the knowledge. We didn't have the resource. I mean, sure, there's YouTube, but you're not going to learn until you do it. And I will say that the very first time we unhooked our trailer, it rolled at us, and we have it on camera. So for those of you wondering what our learning journey has been like, please do not hesitate to go over to our YouTube channel, Life with Beth and Court, where we documented the whole thing.
To clarify, that was user error. That was 1000% user error.
That was the day we learned about chocks.
Yeah.
And so, and we've heard from many people on the road that they themselves have never forgotten to chalk because of that video. So we did learn a lot in the beginning. It was just a ton of, trying it for the first time. Because like I said, you can watch the YouTube videos, but unless you do it, you're not going to build the confidence, and you're not going to build that muscle memory. So one of the things that we did that I think helped us kind of really solidify our learning right up front is we went on a trip for 4 or 5 days right in a row, and they were only one day. We were trying to get out to Virginia. They were only 1 day stops, but we made sure to unhook completely and rehook our trailer, our trailer to our truck every single time, because it solidified that muscle memory. And it did it in a quick succession of back to back to back to back. I'm hooking, I'm unhooking, I'm hooking, I'm unhooking. Now, don't get me wrong. There were definitely fights.
Well, I was going to say that segues beautifully into my biggest nugget of wisdom that I can share with anyone who's interested in this lifestyle, especially as a couple, is communication and slowing down are the two hidden gems of this lifestyle. Because Beth and I both feel like we're really right all the time, and our way is the correct way. And there's a time where that's fine and that's fair game. But when you're talking about RV life, a lot of this hinges on safety, right? Sure. So if you're rushing through something, it could be a small oops or it could be a big oops. And so that's something we had to stumble through for the first, to be transparent, the first 4 months on the road was really tough on our relationship. And so we had to learn how to really overly communicate. So even about the small things like coming behind you on your right, I'm going to unhook this chain. And then if you're not sure, instead of someone being right, just pausing and saying, okay, let's pause. Let's look at this. Let's wait until we both feel comfortable. So that was one of the biggest struggles of RV life in the beginning, but I actually think it really strengthened our relationship. And I really appreciate where we're at in our relationship now because of having to do that.
We got married after we started this lifestyle. So we made it through just fine. But yeah, the first 4 months, everything is a new experience. Yeah. And even just your first argument or disagreement in a camper, our camper is very small.
We live in 200 square feet, and we now have one vehicle instead of two. So when we need to storm off to cool off, we were like, well, wait, who gets the truck?
I'm taking the
There's
truck.
only one vehicle now.
So yeah, even just
there's a quote that my dad used to say that I love more than anything. He says, son, life is easy. People make it complicated.
Yeah, 1000%.
Absolutely.
But I think also too, as you guys said, in any endeavor that anybody does, when it's new, you have no baseline, you have no benchmark. And I think that is some great advice, Beth, to say, just get rapid on your repetition. You can read a lot of books about doing push-ups, but if you never do them, you're not going to get fit. And I think that's what you're saying. You just got to go all in. You got to practice everything, cycle setting up, connecting up your rig, work on that black tank. Get experience every aspect of it. And I think that's some really good advice. In 3 years, even through some of the challenges, it seems very clear to me that it's still absolutely worth it and you guys don't regret it.
1000%. We honestly cannot imagine You know, we honestly cannot imagine ever going back to a stationary lifestyle. You know, we've talked about what does 5-year plan look like? What does 10-year plan look like? And maybe it means like staying in one place for a few months.
Or maybe a Heartland fifth wheel.
Or maybe a Heartland fifth wheel.
Okay, I see where that's
got her
going.
eye on it. But it really is like it teaches you to just live life in such a different way. And I think I can speak for both of us when I say we've really learned to appreciate experiences over things. Mm-hmm. And that's been one of the most impactful pieces of our and that's been one of the most impactful pieces of our V life is that you can kind of let go of stuff and see all there is to see out in the country that we never would have otherwise.
Which leads me to my next question, which everybody always wants to know, right? There's two things. Holy crap, we bought this RV. How do we do this thing? That's number one. And then they do the research. Number two, where do we go? So for you guys in 3 years of travel, and even if you don't agree, I don't want to fight, where would...
like you know us or something.
Where would you guys say, for each of you independently, your favorite destination? You can't look at each other. Beth, you have to say it and say why, and then Court, you have to say. So Beth, where has been your favorite destination throughout North America?
Am I allowed to say a region?
Yes.
I absolutely loved getting to the west side of our country. It was the first time I saw mountains in real life. And I am not kidding when I said every time I saw them, even if it was just a trip to town in Colorado Springs, every time I see the mountains, I just like get the biggest smile on my face. So any place that has mountains and waterfalls. So we loved Colorado. We loved Northern California. Oh, I'm saying we. I'm not supposed to say
we. I love penalty on Beth. So Court, if Beth likes ticks, trees, no, I'm kidding. What do you like?
So mine is more specific. It is a specific location. It is in Northern California, which I cannot help.
Hold on. Do you believe that Beth would guess this location?
Totally.
You want to say it at the same time?
1000%.
We'll
Here we go.
Will count us down.
3, 2, 1.
Mount Shasta.
Mount Shasta. So why is Mount Shasta for you a place that everybody that has an RV needs to go to?
Oh my gosh. It's so beautiful. So Mount Shasta is actually a dormant volcano. And we found her on accident. We were actually passing through and we came around the corner and we saw this majestic, huge mountain looking thing with snow caps. I mean, it literally took our breath away and it felt like something that was out of a movie. And we were like, okay, we need to go stay by this thing. We need to figure out what this is. And so there is so much hiking. There's like a local cute town, little shops nearby, and everything you do around Mount Shasta, you can see her. I call her her. I think
we nicknamed her Shasty.
Shasty. You can see her everywhere you go. So there's just gorgeous hiking with waterfalls. You can go into Mount Shasta and there's a bajillion hiking trails and there's just a really good energy there. Like everyone is super happy and it's just so beautiful and I love it. I think it's magical.
Everyone that we encountered, because I'm sure there's going to be people who write in and are like, I live in Mount Shasta and I'm angry.
Well, we saw only happy people and it made us very happy. And there's even like cute little cabins you can rent and stay there. And so that is our number one, hands down. We send everyone there. And I'm like, please also save space for us because now I feel like we've told so many people about it, but that's my number one.
That is awesome. And, you know, we again talked in the, you know, when we first logged on here, you know, offline about, I think it's just human nature, right? If you grow up wherever, you grow up in Hawaii, you grow up in Michigan, which I call the closest thing to Hawaii because we're surrounded by the Great Lakes. Nothing can bite you. There's nothing under the surface that you could float out there and you'll just evaporate. I mean, nothing can hurt you in the Great Lakes. That's why I love the Great Lakes.
Yeah.
I don't like the ocean. I don't like crabs. I don't like sharks. I don't like any of that.
I do not like the ocean either.
Must be a Michigan thing.
Yeah, we'll stay in our safe water.
And to that degree, I think that's, you know, you take certain things from where you grow up, but when you guys travel too, one question that I have is, everybody thinks, oh, you RV, you're a tree hugger. You only like the outdoors. Well, that's not the case either. Do you guys try to do, festivals, music? Do you try to do other fun things? And if you do, what has been something that you guys have loved that was an activity or a concert or an event that over the last 3 years you thought like, oh man, that was real cool?
Well, to the tree hugger note, I will take it back a step even further that when my wife plans where we're going to camp, she filters by the nearest Costco and Target.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
I mean,
yeah, because what I like, Will, is I like being able to be mobile, but also being able to get chicken nuggets in bulk.
Yeah.
So we survive by being digital nomads, which means we need a certain internet strength. We like to be near civilization still. We love being able to go on hikes and go to lakes and hike up the mountains and go to the waterfalls, and then also be 10 minutes from,
a movie
or the grocery store. We have stayed in places where it was 45 minutes to the nearest grocery store. And I'll just say, it's not for us.
Yeah,
there were a lot of words that I can't say on this podcast that I said when I had to drive 45 minutes.
Well, you can. We'll just have to do a lot of editing.
We just have to bleep them out.
Yeah, to Beth's point, like, I think that there is this concept of like the tree hugger, right? And like you're a nature guru. But it's like, yes. And you can also still go do all of these fun things that are in town. And honestly, that's one of the things we've loved most is you get to a town that you know nothing about, and they have all these cute like art fairs and farmers markets. Like going to a local farmers market is one of our favorite things in every town we go to. And even just like we spent the winter in Georgia one time, and they had this huge Christmas festival that went on for days. Like they had live music, they had a parade. And so it really is for us, we appreciate the best of both worlds where you can choose, okay, do I want to go hike today, or do I want to go to Costco and get chicken nuggets and maybe catch a movie after? Like it gives us a little bit of that resemblance of the stationary lifestyle when we want it.
Yeah. And similarly, there's a lot of people who, when we got into this lifestyle and we're following a budget, we love budgeting because it lets us use our money in a way that's mindful and meaningful and aligns with what we actually want rather than spending it on frivolous things. So we always budget things, and people, one of the biggest comments we used to always get is, oh, you'd save so much money if you boondocked. Let me tell you, we boondocked for approximately a day and a half, and we were calling every local hotel to see if they would let us in. Boondocking, not a thing for us. I mean, like I said, we need electricity to, to have our internet connection.
Right.
Not a fan of having to pull a black tank or gray tank tote. Yeah. I would much rather be hooked up to sewer. So yeah, you can prefer this lifestyle and also prefer to live kind of like a mini apartment on wheels where you have all the amenities of sticks and bricks living, the sewer, the electric, the water nearby to civilization. But also, as soon as you get to log off work, you get to go hike a mountain and hang out at a waterfall.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that actually brings me to another really good point that I hear come up a lot is, when you leave the traditional sticks and bricks and, oh, where are we going to go next mindset, and you couple that with, COVID, obviously, we had the largest influx of first-time campers. I just interviewed the spokesperson for the RVIA who stated that this summer alone, a record 44 million people plan to go on an RV trip throughout North America.
Wow.
So when you hear that, then now people all of a sudden have this fear of, okay, we've watched all the videos, we've followed Life with Beth and Court, we're ready to do this, but there's no campgrounds. Can you just speak to the reality of the perception? The perception is it's a struggle. You guys have to spend 9 months planning, and maybe it is that bad. Or if you do the due diligence, as you said, can you easily plan and navigate safely where, these couples or families can go to the next stop and plan accordingly, even if you're somebody that's not going to rely on the boondocking type setup, but you actually want to go to where you have a shore power and all that jazz?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is a great question. And I think the answer is both. So when you are looking to book in a peak season, so when you think peak season, you think where do people want to be in that season? So for winter, everyone wants to go south where it's warm, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina. Peak season now in summer, it's too hot down there. So that would be like up here, right? Like the upper East Coast or Michigan where we're around water. So really, peak seasons, I would say you do have to plan out quite a bit in advance. Another one that really fills up quickly are state parks. We've noticed that those are kind of tricky to get into.
Over the last 3 years, you have seen an increase?
Yeah. Okay. Yep. We have seen an increase. And then, I mean, there also are places we've called in a pinch where we're like, hey, we thought we had somewhere to live in 2 weeks and I forgot to book it. Is there any chance that you have capacity? And so that has also worked. And so I think, Thousand Trails is a membership that we have that we know that is like high demand. Like you have to be up. People have told stories like you have to wake up at midnight, set an alarm, book it out. But to give some clarity around that, that's because you have to book within a certain window. So like you can only book 3 months at a time, 3 or 4 months at a time. So there also is that level to it. But overall, I think it's a blend of both. I would just say during peak season is when you really need to plan ahead.
Yeah. And I would also say it depends on your preference, right? So for us, because we both do work full time and we need a clear shot to the sky because we are using Starlink. For us, it's really important that we get certain types of campgrounds and we like knowing where we're going next, because the most stressful thing in the world is going through your work week and it's happening at lightning speed. And then all of a sudden being like, shit, where do we move this Saturday? And so for us, we just have such a jam-packed lifestyle that for us, we like to know well in advance. Now, that said, like Court mentioned, you can call campgrounds the day before you need them, and they're likely going to have cancellations. That has happened at even the most packed campgrounds because people do book them months in advance. But if you're okay just finding out a couple days before you're going to be there.
Like we have full-time RV friends, like quite a few couples we know, they love doing it that way.
They love it.
They love just staying where they're staying and then waking up and be like, okay, where should we stay next? And I know a membership that's really popular is Harvest Host. And we love that concept. Like we did have the membership at one point, but it's just not conducive for the full-time working lifestyle for us. But we have other friends that full-time RV that love it.
They love the spontaneity of like, where can we get in? And to me, it makes me melt into a puddle because I have a lot of other things that I'm focusing on.
And I know, and I appreciate that. And I think one other thing too, just like everything in life, you do get what you pay for. So if you're looking at the calendar, you have peak seasons, you're going to pay a little bit more than normal than, when they're off. But also too, if you want the full hookups, so, there's a lot of RV parks that have really nice restrooms and showers that you can use. And then there's ones that are rustic and you got to use a thunder bucket. So, I mean, it just comes down.
Oh my God, what is a thunder bucket?
So a thunder bucket is exactly what you could imagine. You go off into the woods with a bucket and you do your business and you take care of
we are not thunder bucket.
We are not thunder bucket.
I'll tell you that much.
No, but I think like a small tip I could give to your point is like if you can book even the nicest campgrounds and the nicest places, if you can get them just a little bit outside of peak season, like April and May, we have found some really awesome campgrounds that the price is way more during peak season. So if you can tolerate a little bit of the cooler temperatures,
or if you like them,
that's a little tip we found that's really helpful.
Well, and I was glad I was able to give you guys some new vocabulary because I had talked to some other nomads and they kind of ranked for me, you hear like a 3 or 4 or 5-star hotel. Well, in the RVing world, they say you've got full hookups, then you have honey wagons, and then you have thunder buckets. And I said, well, what's a thunder bucket? They said that's at the very most rustic, like using leaves. It's at the low end. So like you said, for some people, they say, hey, I love that.
They love it. Going back to nature. Yeah.
We are not those people.
Yeah. So we've talked about travel. We've talked about destinations. We've talked about things that you guys love. We've talked about that you're still happy and together, thank God. And there's more adventures coming in the years ahead. So let's talk about life outside of the hiking and the smiles and the photos and the videos and the, hey, look at us. So you guys do work. And I want to take this time to just allow people to understand that, you know, over the last 3 years, you know, just as you guys have been a brand ambassador to us, you have provided a lot of value to people, not just with your following through the engagement of documenting your own journey, but you guys also provide services and support for people. And one of the things, again, that I talked about before we were offline, as I started peeling the onion of this lifestyle, okay, separate from us at Heartland RV as a manufacturer, when I look at destinations, there is thousands of boutique, privately owned, second, third generation campgrounds owned by families, 60 plus years, etc. They do well on the word of mouth. They have seasonal sites, so every year they see the same groups come in, but they don't have a lot of budgets. Or, you know, large budgets for marketing and to, you know, bring in new guests and get to full occupancy. You guys have been, over the last 3 years, been able to help provide a lot of value to folks. So can you just take a little moment? I know I'm asking you to get on your soapbox, but just really do, you know, can you kind of talk about how it went from you guys kind of documenting and sharing your journey to, hey, we can help a lot of people with our skill set. And what is that skill set? Just so if there are listeners, you know, as I've mentioned before, I work, you know, we have the campgrounds that come on a lot, and they're always saying offline, like, hey, Will, if you know anybody that can kind of help us out, well, you two can. So what is it that you guys do?
Yeah, absolutely. So how that evolution happened was, as you mentioned in the beginning, we were just documenting our journey, mostly because we had no idea what we were doing and we thought it was hilarious and we thought other people might find that entertaining. And then it was kind of at the 1.5 year mark, I would say, that we started getting people who would write into us and say, oh my gosh, I saw the video of your trailer rolling at you. We have never forgotten to chalk our tires, like we're new RVers. Or they would say, like, hey, what products do you recommend? And so really it just started organically that we were sharing the experience in a very authentic, raw, non-Instagram filtered way. Like
the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, like this is just who we are and this is what's happening. And I really think when you are sharing things from that lens, it calls in a big audience of people because that's what they want, right? They want to be able to mess up when they're jumping into RV life. They want to be able to say, oh my gosh, this happened to us. And so people were asking questions. And that was kind of the first evolution. And that's when Beth had a really great idea that we should start a blog. So really talking about the tactical things and like the how-tos and the recommendations and things like that.
I'm a blog reader because the great thing about Court and I is we are on the opposite end of almost every spectrum. So she is very much so, I want the quick, I want the fast, I want the 4-second videos that teach me something meaningful and I can consume it while I'm scrolling. I want the 20-minute YouTube tutorial that walks me through literally every step of the way. I also want the detailed blog post. So that's what we ultimately did is together with our powers combined, we, you know, Court really took on our social media, you know, our face on the social media platforms. And then, you know, we're on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube primarily. And we at one point had a podcast as well. We have, you know, the website we have the blog there. So really we're trying to cover the whole spectrum of how people learn and what could be helpful for people who are learning to start this journey.
Yeah. And so we actually joined a program. It's called Social Blue Book, and it's for people who want to create content. Were they our first partner? Like our first official?
Well, I think RV Life Pro is our first official partner.
So they're one of our partners. And here's a spoiler alert. We do not partner with people we don't align with. Like we get a lot of requests, but we make sure it's a good fit on both sides because we want it to be beneficial for both. And so we were like, people are asking us these questions. Businesses are reaching out. What do we do? And they they helped us structure in a way that we could turn videos and blogs into an actual business. And that was kind of the next chapter of Life with Beth and Court, is we would stay at a local campground and we would say, hey, I'd stalk their social media, as you do, in a loving way. And I'd be like, hey, I noticed, here's your social media. Like, here's some things I think could help. Would you be interested in having a conversation? And so not only did we help them strengthen their social media presence, so I guess by default, I am a social media coach. So I do it for Life with Beth and Court, but I also coach other businesses or other individuals or other RV couples or RVers that want to grow their social media. So not only did we strengthen their social media outward facing for them, but if it was a good fit, we would share about their campground with our followers, because our followers are primarily either people who are doing RV living or just jumping into it or looking for recommendations. And it kind of snowballed from there that we now have businesses like Allegiant Airlines reaching out to us saying, hey, we saw the content you make for your page. And that was our first one that was outside of RV life. And so we went on a trip, we created content for them, and it's called user generated content, UGC, where basically a business will hire you to make the content for them. So it does feel natural and authentic.
Yeah. And I would say that the other way, this kind of naturally took its course was the products that we would use. Court is very excitable. So when Court is excited about something, she will make the entire internet listen. It's a wonderful perk of her personality. And so she would talk about things in our daily vlog or just in our stories and on our page about, oh, we just found this product, we really love it, et cetera, et cetera. Well, when those products would get wind of it on the social networks, then they would reach out to us. They would send us promo boxes. So, the brand of deodorant we wore, or the shampoo bars, the coffee, some of the drinks we like. So then bigger brands started reaching out and just saying, hey, thanks so much for loving our product. Here's a bunch of it for you. And then, a natural byproduct of that sometimes is us making user generated content, but then it also blossoms into full-blown, partnerships with them. So it definitely has been an incredible journey. And I would say, did we think this would happen? Yes, but 5-10 years out, we thought Heartland would be a 10-year
Heartland was
goal.
A 10-year plan. RV Life Pro was a 10-year plan. But I think to anyone who's listening that maybe is a full-time RVer and wants to start documenting, or you're going to jump into the lifestyle and you want to start documenting, my biggest piece of advice is just be yourself and have fun. Because honestly, when you're trying to be this cookie cutter robot, that's this drink is delicious. I love
and
this
RV
flavor.
life is always wonderful.
Yeah, it's not always wonderful.
Not wonderful all the time.
But when you're authentic and if you stop having fun, there was a turning point for me where I was sitting at our desk crying about our Instagram followers. And I was like, what am I doing with my life? And I had to make a pivot. And so in January of this year, I said, I'm not having fun anymore. What can I do? And so I started a daily vlog. It's a 60-second vlog of what RV life looks like for that day. I was really honest about how some days went, but then we had even more people, more businesses. It kind of opened the floodgates of oh, here's this couple that they're being really honest about the awesome parts and really awesome about the challenging parts. And so I think just being yourself, it will take time, but the right connections will happen from that.
And I will give one last addition to that. Court is incredible at what she does, and she has created a course to help others start a vlog if that is the direction they want to go. And she also offers social media coaching one-on-one, and there are more courses to come, because a natural byproduct of our channels looking and performing the way they do is people look to her, businesses and just individuals alike who want to become content creators look to our channel and say, how do I do what you do? And rather than answering the same questions in a DM day after day after day,
here's the course.
She created a course. So that's also something that is a service that she offers, whether we're partnering with a campground, for instance, and trading a site for the season for their social media presence, or being able to train someone on their staff with the coaching materials and the coaching services she has, that has become another fruitful division of our business.
Fruitful division. I've never heard you.
I know.
So
I've never said it.
So if any of our listeners or viewers want to follow you both as you do life together, or there's some listeners that work for a company that want you guys as a UGC, why don't you go ahead and outline again the website and where to find you on all the social platforms? And then I just have a couple more questions after that before we wrap this up. So how can everybody connect with you guys?
Hopefully we have made it extremely easy on you. Everything is Life with Beth and Court. So it's lifewithbethandcourt.com, Life with Beth and Court on YouTube, Life with Beth and Court on Instagram, Life with Beth and Court on TikTok. And if you want to listen to our podcast archives, Life with Beth and Court on any podcasting platform.
And then additionally, if you would like to send us an email because you are interested in reaching out, that is info@lifewithbethandcourt.com.
Fantastic. Yep. And we'll obviously too in post, we'll make sure we get it out to everybody because, with the podcast, fortunately, with you as our ambassadors and people getting the word out about this, it's, now it's, hey, where's their information? You didn't put it in there. So we're making sure that we're going to do that job, and we'll be sure for all the listeners and viewers, we will have their information out there so it can be shared. You made a comment, Beth, earlier, and don't think I didn't catch it when you fifth wheel. So a lot of times when I go to RV shows, a lot of people say, well, why do people change all the time? I say, well, a couple reasons. Number one, majority of the people that buy an RV, regardless of the brand that they choose, they have it sit in their driveway for 3/4 of the year. They don't use it that much. So they won't change a lot. The people that are changing a lot are the ones that are in it. And at first they, like you said, no offense to Court, of course, very similar to me. I get excited. I don't take a lot of time and I don't analyze. I just go, oh my God, I love this one. This one's so great. Let's get it. And then a lot of people tell me their only remorse is, we should have taken more time because we didn't know this floor plan was here. So I guess, can you just kind of speak to, even though you love your Heartland product and your floor plan, but would you agree with me that the need or the constant change of floor plans is because as you evolve in your travels, your needs change and how it's set up? I mean, I tell everybody, these aren't mansions. At most, they're 400 square feet if you've got all the slides open. But the little nuances, and that's where, as we evolve as manufacturers through listening to you and other owners, it's, why did you guys put the plugs there behind the couch? Like, oh, you want them accessible? So we are listening, but that's where I guess I just want you to confirm, like, that is what, for us to continue and have more happy campers, manufacturers do have to spend more time listening, not at the surface level like a me or a Court going, okay, that sounds good, we're going to go ahead and do this. More like you said, Beth.
It's sparkly.
Yeah. But can you kind of talk about why maybe your needs have changed or you guys want more space?
Totally.
And then just your thoughts on floor plans.
I have been waiting to talk about this for 2.5 years.
Nice.
I'm so
here, so I would like you to be nice.
No. So, first of all, I would like to say that this may be contrary to what you often hear, but we don't regret getting this rig. We don't regret the one we chose because we chose the right rig for the right time.
And what do you have right now?
We have the North Trail 22 RBK, which I don't think you guys sell anymore.
You sell North Trail.
Ours is vintage.
Yeah. But ours is vintage. And I do want to say before you go into your part that we meet so many full-time RVers and we have heard horror stories about brand new rigs off the lot, like everything that has to be fixed and replaced and how they're not good quality. I can honestly say in the 3 years we have been full-time RVing, our repairs have been extremely minimal, extremely affordable. Like, I feel like we're the cool ones. When people are like, oh, this broke and this fell off and we had a blowout. Like, honestly, the first 2 years of our travels were moving every single 1 week to 2 weeks, like nonstop for 2 years. We put it through a lot.
And our model isn't even made for full-time living because it's such a baby. They're like, no one will be able to live in this.
But I just want to say, we did it. Before we launch into the next part, we can honestly, authentically say this rig was built so well and it was perfect for starting out, and it's held up incredibly.
Yeah, so I would say that the reason that we chose the rig we did starting out is because, like we mentioned, we had literally never done this before. So we didn't know if we would be able to back up very well in campgrounds. We didn't know if we would be able to handle it well. We didn't know how hauling would feel. We didn't know so much, and we didn't want a rig that was so big that it made it miserable to learn. We damaged our rig or our truck. We put ourselves in danger. We didn't want something that was unmanageable, but we also wanted to be cognizant of the fact that in a month or two, we probably were going to get comfortable driving and parking and towing and all of that. So we didn't want something so small that we would outgrow it in a month or two. And that was a really fine balance for us to try to find. But we were happy with the 26-foot rig that we ended up choosing. We loved the floor plan of it. We really love that inside of a Heartland, it just feels like the quality is there. It's true craftsmanship. There's a lot of rigs you can go into that have the same floor plan. But there's just little things, the little nuances inside that make a Heartland really feel more like a home. And like Court said, the quality actually did hold up, even with a model that wasn't meant for full-time living. That said,
so why a fifth wheel?
Well, that said,
I want a bedroom door, Will.
Yeah.
We have a curtain. We have a curtain. I just want a bedroom door. That way, when I want to sleep in, I don't have to hear it.
Well, and my joke was, I want a rig that I can do a jumping jack or an overhead press and not hit the ceiling with my weights. So that may connect with you as a former football player. Being able to do your workouts in the rig. Our rig, the ceiling isn't that high, and so the very first thing that this floor plan actually does have quite a bit of storage. So we were pretty pleased with that, but just the height inside, and we're both only 5'4" and 5'3", so we're not even hard to accommodate in that way.
When big people come in our rig, we're like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know you weren't gonna.
Yeah, when anyone tall comes in, we're like, oh man, your head literally sticks out over the shower.
So the bigger ceilings, I think the biggest thing with the fifth wheel, when you walk in, you feel like it's a little apartment.
It's an actual home.
It feels like a little home. The way it's set up is very intentional, very beautiful. And we love the floor plan that has like the TV and fireplace. It has a couch. Sometimes they have 2 couches. Yeah. We do not have a couch right now.
We have these office chairs. So we ripped out our dinette and we installed a desk, which is what we're talking to you on right now, because we didn't need a place to eat. We needed a desk more than we needed a place to eat. And so we ripped out the dinette, we put in this desk, we put in these 2 office chairs, and anytime we wanted to, cuddle and watch a movie, we would have to like try to sling one leg on the other person's computer chair, and it's
not romantic, guys.
It's not very comfortable.
10 out of 10 do not recommend that strategy.
So even just having a couch, being able to entertain other humans. My sister and her fiance just came up for a big birthday bash weekend, and they had to sleep outside in a tent, which they said they wanted to, but I would have loved to have been able to say, hey, we have air conditioning in here. You can sleep on the pull-out couch. So,
and I think it just gives a vision of space. Like now, if you walk into our rig, we say, okay, are you ready for the tour? Pivot to your right, pivot to your left, look to the front, and you've seen it all. Whereas there is the division of like space, right? Absolutely. So you can go read a book in bed while the other one's watching TV. The kitchen, oh my gosh, Will. The kitchen. I am the cook in this household, and just to have that big
so that's what you want. You want a big kitchen. Okay.
I want the kitchen and the bathroom door.
Listen, she says she's the cook in this family, but I just got a Blackstone griddle for my birthday. So I am now a chef as well. Thank you so much.
Very nice.
But yeah, currently we have approximately 2 drawers for all of our kitchen stuff.
But it was going back to the beginning. It was the right fit for us at the right time. Yeah. And honestly, we just hit the window where we felt like it was too small, maybe like a couple months ago. So about just over 2.5 years, it really served its purpose. And now we're like, okay, well, let's think bigger. Like, let's look with that.
Yeah, I would say that the difference is it's been like, for 2.5 years, it's been like traveling in a hotel room, and now we'd like to travel in an apartment.
Yeah.
Well, a couple things.
Fifth wheel, the apartment.
Yeah, a couple of things. Obviously, I can appreciate, and that's exactly what you guys said. 3 years has been great, but yeah, you're ready to try a little bit more space. You're ready to see, how good of a cook, Beth is she really, and have a bigger kitchen. But I also think too, and I do appreciate, because I don't want our listeners or the viewers to roll their eyes and be like, oh, here they go. Oh, Heartland's so great. Well, we had the truth is this. Obviously, I'm happy that you had a great experience, but I also know that we have some opportunities to improve. But you guys said something that resonated with me, and all the actions that I've been taking, because I'm trying to be a little bit different. When I came in, they said, well, we don't need somebody else with gel in their hair starting out and going, well, check out our new front cap. It's got an automotive clear coat paint. Like, be real, because the more and you said it, the more that you communicate and clarify the expectations, I think that's when people get disappointed, like any other aspect of life. If you go to Disney and you think it's going to be here, no traffic, easy parking, buying a pretzel will be $2. And then you get there and you go, the pretzel was $38. It took us 5 hours to walk. There's obviously a gap of your expectation to the reality. So what Leslie has done a very good job of, I call her my big sister. She kind of keeps me in bounds and makes sure that what I say is compliant and good, but just being real, to be authentic, as you said, and communicate more. Because I think when we make these coaches, we make a lot of assumptions that people know how to cook, that people know what to do when something goes wrong, that people need to know that, trim is going to shake loose sometimes, because when you're going down the road at 60 mile an hour with side winds, that's a lot. That's banging against your RV. So, I just really appreciate, since, we've connected with you guys and listening to you of, hey, what can we as a manufacturer do better? Just communicate more. When you bring on like the Asdale sidewall, I do a lot of time talking about that, because it's not something that you see when you go to the dealership a lot, but it's important to know, hey, Heartland doesn't use Luan, a wood-based substrate. They use Asdale. It's a purchased part. They didn't invent it. Other manufacturers use it too, but now we know it's less than 1% chance of delaminating, right? So that's where, I have taken your guys' feedback and others to just communicate more. Like Court said, because the more you communicate, the more you eliminate assumptions. So, I said, I really appreciate you guys taking a minute to talk about the floor plan thing. I did hear the fifth wheel, so we'll have to see where life with Beth and Court goes from here.
Man. Well, I will say too, just real quick on that, Will, we did take a tour with your guys at Heartland's manufacturing headquarter plant, and there were when you talk about communicating, we were like, the more the tour went on, the more excited we were about Heartland, because we didn't even realize all of the extra care that you guys put into manufacturing them to keep us safer, to keep the products from falling apart, to make sure that things stay stable. Even just communicating things like, yes, the outlet thing you mentioned earlier. We asked, why aren't there outlets here, or why are they in weird places? And they explained that it's code. And we were like, oh, well, we didn't know that. We just thought you guys didn't know how people use outlets.
And the two that took us on the tour talking about communication did a good job. They were like, okay, you're like our ideal audience, right? Like, what do you like? What don't you like? And I'm laughing because I was like, well, the outside of your rigs are kind of ugly. I just laid that in. They were like, okay. But
the older versions.
But they really, it wasn't a show. It was like, no, really. So when you're using internet and you're working, what does that look like? And there was a model of the fifth wheel we saw that it had an office space. Like usually the bunkhouse would go there. But for us, we look at so many rigs, and a lot of times they're thinking about the bunkhouse, but they're not thinking about the full-time RVer that needs just like a cute little office space. And so I really do think you guys are asking the right questions and moving in the right direction.
Well, I appreciate that. I think just like, with you guys, as you've grown your following, one thing that I always talk about is, let's avoid the adjectives and be real. You hear some other manufacturers talk about, we're relentless, we're obsessed. I'm like, what business isn't that?
Yeah.
Like, what business wants to have a rally and have everybody angry? And so I think, when you go through that buying journey, I say this, it's Heartland's job to take actions to give people a better ownership experience. It's the dealer's responsibility to give them a great buying experience, because going back to, again, expectations, if they're so angry and they finally get into the coach, but the experience was soured. And then the other piece of it too, if that is our responsibility, people need to remember, you can access manufacturers easier now than ever before. As we grew up, rotary phone, there was no internet, there was no social media. We want that engagement, right? So I just tell people, if you want to connect with Beth and Court, follow them, send them a DM. You want to connect and have a relationship with Heartland, you're allowed to. I don't know if in the warranty, I read the warranty, nowhere does it say, do not contact us and try to have a relationship with us. But I think people, because you buy from a dealer, you just think there's this disconnect and, oh, I'm one of millions, they'll never acknowledge me. And that's just not the case. So I always tell people, look, don't wait for a problem to happen. Introduce yourself. Hey, Rick and Sally. Hey, Beth and Court. You just got a coach. Great. Not much to say. Just, well, thank you. We hope you like it. But you're allowed to have a relationship, with everybody that you work with. And I think just like in life, when you travel, you get a lot more security, more peace of mind, more comfort when, hey, you know what? We talked to Beth and Court. This place is cool. There's no freaks. There's no thunder buckets. This was a good spot. And then, but wouldn't you agree though, Beth or Court, like if somebody reaches out to you, how does that make you feel when they're like, they like the content and used it and it helped them?
Love it. We love hearing that, because otherwise it gets lonely out here. You just create and create and create and create, and you have no idea. Is anyone, there have been so many times where I'm like, I'm spending my free time writing these blogs. I have no idea if a single soul is reading them. Well, one of the most popular blogs we have is the best internet for the RV life. And the internet provider that we recommend on that page, I just so happened to, in a chat once, find out from one of their support people. She was like, yeah, there's so many people who come to us still from your blog. And I was like, people read it? And she's like, oh, tons of people read it. And so, yeah, for the content creators, we love when you reach out and say, this was helpful, or, I loved this episode, would love to see more of it, because,
commenting or sharing, like all of that really not only helps us as content creators, because that tells the platforms we're relevant, we're important, but it also does, like, I literally have an album on my phone of screenshots of really sweet and kind things people have said to us and how we've helped them in their journey, or how we've even just, like, we have people who are like, we're not RVers, but you're just so inspiring. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
It keeps us going.
It keeps us going.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
So we're gonna end this, and I'm gonna let you guys get going, but I'm not letting you off the hook. I have one challenge for you, Court, because I always say talk is cheap, and you guys add so much value to so many people. I want you to do one cooking show where you give a shout out to Wild Lily and just see how it goes. Because if you are this amazing cook that we hear about, it sounds like a lot of people will want to watch your cooking show.
Oh, challenge accepted.
Camper cooking.
Camper cooking with Court.
Oh,
there you go.
We even have the alliteration going. Incredible.
We're going to do it.
I'm excited because that means I get to eat
with
this show.
Well, Beth and Court, thank you guys so much for all that you do for us and everybody. Again, everyone that's listening, lifewithbethandcourt.com. They've made it very easy on social media. Same name, Life with Beth and Court. Thank you guys so much for taking some time to be a guest on the Launching Life's Journeys podcast. We wish you a fantastic 4th of July back in your good old hometown. And we look forward to the cooking show and more adventures. So yeah, thank you guys so much for taking some time, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks so much. It's been fun.
I'm Will Miller, and I want to thank you for tuning in to the Launching Life's Journeys podcast, brought to you by Heartland RVs. Stay tuned for our next destination.